Hello, I thought it'd be interesting to share a little bit of the making of my first and only iPhone game Planeto, a sort of behind the scenes look in case if maybe you were interested in where I got my inspirations from, or how I executed my ideas for it. I started thinking about creating a mobile game in around the spring of 2021, near the end of my ninth grade year. I was working on a few small projects at the same time, most notably a shabby attempt at a rhythm game as well as a small platformer called Afraid of the Dark. The positive reception of the latter game ended up making me consider porting it to the iPhone. However, after failing horrendously at touch controls and reading Apple's guidelines for new apps, I decided it might be better if I designed something new. A few of my first ideas included things like a game where you'd grow a really big tree, and each level you could put something interesting on there, or a game that simulated an ecosystem, and it would be your job to put in animals to interact with one another. One thing I knew for sure was that I wanted to create a simple idle game, nothing too complicated and easy to run for most devices. I started feeling a little lost at this point and started to watch a few people on YouTube play The Binding of Isaac Repentance, a DLC that came out very recently at the time. Strangely enough, I felt a really big inspiration from part of the game's soundtrack. This music played whenever you entered a planetarium, a super rare room that has a better chance of occurring if you skip the much beloved item rooms. It gave me the thought of a game where you'd create your own planet by purchasing trees and whatnot to sort of decorate it and make it yours. I sketched a few ideas down in my notebook and started creating a little concept of what kind of planet I'd make. Still don't know what I was trying to go for here. It was a very strange model. I think I tried to make a little face on the front of it as well. I took a quick break to look at how other people handle low poly modeling in Blender, and eventually found a style that better suited my needs. That's much better. At least there's a little bit of consistency in this one. I wanted to include something to the planet to make it feel unique, and immediately the first idea was going to have a great disproportionate tree on the top, so that's what I did. The concept scene ended up looking something like this at this point, which I kind of liked. At the time I felt that shading that sort of made it look flat and 2D would suit the game the best. Great. Now the next hurdle was to find a way to make touch controls and plant trees onto the planet. Since I never had really worked with 3D in Unity before, I spent the next couple of days just figuring out how to get a position from a touch, and whatever kind of magic I needed to make the planet spin. After a while, I finally got both controls and tree placing working, and pretty soon after that I added a little menu as well. It may not look like much, but at the time I was extremely proud of myself. I worked on the menu a little bit more, and then the next thing to tackle was the save system. I started to lose a little bit of motivation to keep going since I had little faith the concept would be a fun game people enjoyed playing, so I took a little break from it for a few months where I made time docs and Aminus for the GM2K Jam for 2021, as well as a little rhythm beat 'em up game I started with an artist I met on Newgrounds. After showing a few people, as well as developer friends I met through the jam, what I had so far for Planeto, they ended up liking it somehow and gave their approval. I regained a little bit of lost motivation, but what really gave me a kick to get back on track was discovering that there was a shine feature on the toon shader I was using, which completely changed how the game looked. I started adding a bunch of new trees and also made the addition of buildings, which was when I got the idea of the need to balance your planet's health. Unfortunately for then, I decided to scrap the tab for animals and limited trees for a while, since I wouldn't have enough time to make them worthwhile. I spent a lot of time making the game look better with post-processing. At the moment, the planet still looked the same when having low health, so I made a little feature where the planet's materials would swap out with a much sadder, desolate look when the planet's health went below a certain threshold. I got my friend Benjamin to compose an entirely new theme for when the planet had low health as well. At this point, I was able to see a little bit of how the end product would look. I discovered an add-on that Blender had which allowed you to fraction models and break it into smaller fragments, which was where I got the idea to create a little sequence when you reset your planet. I then took the base planet, created a new one where it was broken into smaller bits, and in Unity on the moment of impact, the planet model would switch out with the broken one, giving the illusion it's breaking apart. I felt meteors would have been the most appropriate, so that's what I did. I still think that was pretty well put together, especially with the little track Ben composed for this, though I did up changing the color and direction of the meteors since one person commented that they looked like fiery meatballs, and it also looked weird when the last meteor went in a completely different direction compared to the rest. I also added a little feature where the player gets daily rolls and could win a tree or a building. I had to wrestle with the code a little bit to get daily collection working, but I got it eventually. Now the game really started to look and feel like an app, which hopefully would meet Apple's guidelines. I made one little change to the rebirth system where instead of just clearing your planet, every clear you do will unlock new trees and plants, which was something suggested by a playtester actually. As for a few final changes, I made the UI look a little bit slicker and more modern for the final look, and then it was just preparing to launch on the App Store. To this day, I'm still quite proud of this project and shocked I was able to keep such a project going for so long. Thanks to those of you that still play, and I promise that update is coming real soon.